of the building overlooking the playground. And in addition, on the high roof of the building, we are providing photovoltaic panels to produce electricity for the project as one of the sustainable features of the project.
Just for the minutes, you said the eastern side, but you're talking about the eastern side of the western building?
Yes, yes, I'm talking about the western building and the eastern side overlooking the playground.
Right next to the playground.
Okay, Melissa has a question.
Okay, I have a few, I think, pretty quick questions. One is, you commented or you presented on the addition of jobs that will come with the residents when it opens. Can you speak to whether hiring will be local or any after that?
So the estimate is that this project will create 50 full-time jobs after the project is built. It is a lot of those jobs are for WSFSH, and it is always WSFSH's goal to hire from the local community, and it's not just because we think it's a good idea. For us, we find that if our staff working in the buildings are part of the community, they are become very invested in the project. There's kind of an ease of them getting there no matter what the weather is. And so, we're very invested in hiring from the local community.
Okay, is there kitchen or food service on site, or will people be like shopping and living independently in that?
It's a mix. So as part of the Valet Lodge, at the eastern edge of the western development, the phase 1 development. And so, that large dining room is one of the spaces that we feel to be used for community needs. So, there is meals provided there. And then in the independent living family affordable units, they have kitchens, just like any other one, as well as our senior supportive units all have kitchens as well.
Okay, and lastly, for the affordable units, this is kind of more of a comment. It would be great if you did some outreach to maybe train people to apply for the affordable units, so we have a better chance of more CB7 members ranking higher on the list and getting placed in those units.
Right now, we would love to do that, and we would work with other not-for-profits in this area in order to have them help us in that effort.
Okay, great.
Of course, she doesn't really mean CB7 members, she means people who reside.
Sorry, residents.
We also have, among the 33 supporters of the project, I would say there are a dozen or so churches, and we'd like to work with the churches and synagogues who are supporting the project to get the word out through those organizations as well.
Thank you. I have a question. I should know the answer to this, but I don't. Where is the garbage going to be stored, and where is it going to be left for pickup, and what is the arrangement for pickup of garbage?
We have a compactor room, two compactor rooms, one for Valley Lodge and one for the affordable side. Refuse will be stored in the compactor rooms and brought out through the rear yard. We have out to the street for pickup by the sanitation department.
Sorry, I need a clarification on the map on page 7. I had understood when you were talking about the community spaces that they were going to be on the ground floor. But this plan, I jogged my memory, shows it on the lower level plan. So I'm assuming that all the spaces, Bill, that you're putting in the basement are the compactor and related to custodial.
At the east end, if you look at that page, and not everybody has, there it is on a screen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Move over here. On the lower level, the eastern end, the blue color here is the community health center. That is accessed at grade level there. And that space is partially below grade and partially above grade. We've taken advantage of the slope of the site, and so that space will get a degree of natural light and visibility to the street. Additional space is in the kind of orange color on the ground floor level, actually raised slightly above the ground floor level. At the east end of the main floor is the main dining room, which serves the residents of Valley Lodge. Secondly, other residents of the building, but will also be available to the community on a scheduled basis for community meetings, special events and the like. And that space will also be entered through this, what we're calling the community facility entry towards the east end of the building. Finally, at the west end of the building, we have a series of community rooms and activity rooms that will, again, be primarily for use by the residents of the building, but also open on a scheduled basis for community activities. And those spaces, again, on the west side, on the ground floor, will be accessed either through the main residential entrance to the building or directly from the street. Those spaces are being designed with doors that open directly to the street for direct access.
So you thought hard about, in combining these three different types of housing, units of, centralizing so they're all shared, so they can all benefit from each other?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right, and it just,
Peter has a quick
I was
question.
gonna say, the thing that, just to be clear, over the length of the site, there's how much elevation change? There's a 9-foot elevation change, so that's actually what's allowing us that by the time we get to the eastern end of the site, the lower level spaces actually have quite a bit of natural light coming into them.
Okay.
But on the lower level, on the western side of the site, what's there? Okay, so to just run through some of the other spaces that are in the lower level. In addition to the community health center, there are a variety of offices and activity rooms on the north side, right behind the community health center. And then on the west end, I realize you can't see what I'm pointing to, Peter, but at the west end of the lower level are the variety of service rooms, utility rooms, storage rooms, and the like.
And the office spaces in the back actually have an areaway that brings natural light down into them from the rear yard.
Peter and I are having a little duet here. So I think Peter's reminded me, the second part of my first question about the zoning is how much housing would be lost if we were to comply? What would be the loss in units?
It's a little over 100 units. So it's not just making the community space, be able to do the community serving spaces. It also is increasing the amount of affordable housing units by about 100.
So you could only get 94 units in before? I don't know, I don't follow that because you're only adding 2.5 floors.
What we would do is we would essentially take a lot of the community serving space and have that used now for units.
Right, but you wouldn't lose 100 units.
No, I'm sorry. It's 100 units over both phases.
Right.
So area on the first phase, sorry.
Sorry,
I'm
it's
sorry.
important.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. In the first phase, it's about 60 units.
That would be lost or you would be building?
Lost. Well, by doing the zoning change from R8B to R8A, we
Okay.
can do 60 more.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, and the second phase?
About 40.
You guys are finished.
All right, Peter's got one more.
Question? I think what we'll do now, and I appreciate your answers and everything else, it's now time for the members to speak. We have one more question, and then we'll.
and I have a clarification for the minutes too.
Regarding the 50%, to CB, regarding the 50% to CB7, I'm having a little bit of a, I'm trying to understand something. If this were a project with no people in it, then 50% of CB7 would be a lot more people, but there are already existing tenants in this project. So isn't that 50% somewhat skewed?
No,
No?
the existing,
Live in CB7.
But then,
No,
yeah.
I think you're misunderstanding. Valley Lodge will have 90 people in it now, we'll have 110 people in it. The affordable units don't exist now.
Oh, I see.
right, the only existing residents are the Valley Lodge residents.
Okay. I see. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you for that clarification.
And then-
Matt, Mark?
Yeah, thank you.
Just from this, I think this is from Ms. Rosenthal. I want to make sure I got the right. Is the document in which the forswearing of future use of the non-used FAR So the air rights, the development rights that you're not going to use after the upzoning. The restriction that prevents them from being used in any other way, is that in the land disposition agreement, the LDA?
Right,
And
it
that
goes
runs,
from HPD to the applicant and runs with the land, it's recorded and runs with the land.
so it is the LDA that does that. Thank you.
Does that document exist today? For us to look at? Is there a draft of the land disposition agreement for us to look at?
The difference between
There are two different questions. One is, it doesn't exist yet. It's one of the documents that will be in place at the closing when the transfer occurs. They're fairly standard, but these restrictions are not standard. These are for this site, and those will have to be drafted into the Louisa asked about, I think you're asking about transfer of development rights, if I understood you correctly. And my understanding is that no, we're not going to be allowed to transfer the development rights. That's going to be, they just get lost. Yes, HPD is confirming that, yes.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming. It's very important. We appreciate that you've been quiet and listening well. We want you to know that we have read all your comments. We've read the minutes which Mark produced, which we've all had copies of. We've all received copies of everybody's comments, which we've all had an opportunity to look at. And
Where do you find them?
we've gotten them online, we've printed them out, and we want to thank you for that. I'm now turning it over to Richard Ash for the board discussion.
This is, there are several measures that we need to take, and they're all related. I think the best way to start, just to see where people on the board are, is to pass the mic around. I'll start on my left. Just get any comments you care to make, or if you care to pass, that's fine. And let's, just so we can get the discussion started and see whether, what the mood of the members is. And,
Well, my first comments, fortunately I'm going first. I just wanted to say I think it's great that there's an effort being made to increase the amount of affordable housing, and I think this is an effort we should try as much as possible to further assist and help with. And that's my only thought on the topic.
I agree. I agree. This is a wonderful thing to have, to preserve and increase affordable housing.
I know I don't have to say this, but please no applause. It makes it a lot more difficult and it's a lot longer. So no applause, no booing, no standing ovation. You can raise your signs if you want, but.
My question is, how do we go on approving this without getting the assurances in writing first that they were just talking about? They're not selling off the FAR, and I'm using it as I say. And my other question is there any way to get more apartments in here and less community space?
I can't answer the second question. As to the first question, we frequently approve proposals that contain conditions that haven't yet been reduced to writing. We accept the oral assurances of the developer in the city, and we incorporate those conditions in our resolution, so that our resolution is conditioned on the existence of a land disposition agreement, restrictions on the reuse of the disposition of air rights, etc. So it's all we can do, and that's all we're. We just, unfortunately, we don't see this project again.
If we don't see it again, the last question, and that's about that very large space for healthcare. There are so many healthcare institutions in the neighborhood already, so much space for healthcare institutions. I looked around that neighborhood. Most of the stores in the adjacent avenues are healthcare situations. I wonder if somehow that is an extra large space, and if that
could possibly use community services as well as using the provided as time.
You're noting the large healthcare space, and you're asking if it
Now
can be used
there's
for
housing. Now there's
They're just fixing the minutes right now.
places for people to live. There.
I think that when we're talking about the fact that we don't have everything in writing, that we're depending very much on the reputation of the church, which, as they say, has been doing good deeds for 40 years. My question, when you're talking about that, my question actually is about the ambulance unit, because we have Mount Sinai is directly there, there's St. Luke's, and I just question the fact that do we actually need a separate ambulance unit just for Central Park?
My understanding is that they're there now. They park in one of the garages.
Yes, I know.
They are there now, and they came to the land use committee meeting approximately 2 years ago and explained that they actually know Central Park as opposed to, and I think Mark Diller can speak to this, unfortunately, his experience in Riverside Park. That they during the day they're in Central Park. So during active use time, they're in the park. They can easily get to a location. They know all the little side streets and all the little areas that nobody else knows.
They have special size ambulances that can go.
They can fit, yes. That was the other piece. They can fit under certain tunnels that other ambulances can.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things that I wanted to share. One of which is an overall concern that there are things in the environmental impact statement that are yet to be determined. For example, there's a remedial action plan that was only submitted for approval at the same time as the EIS that the project was certified. There's a more detailed construction impact assessment called for regarding air quality and noise. There's an additional field study. So this is a criticism of the Department of City Planning. I don't get why this project was certified when it was. I'm in general in support of the project, but I am very concerned about the process that we find ourselves in right now, because some of those things might be material, they might not be material, we don't know by their nature. So shame on the Department of City Planning for putting an incomplete record before us, and I'm concerned about that. I do support the creation of additional affordable housing, but I do so with some reservation. And while I'm often flippant about parking and in our community, and especially in my area of our community, I am not so flippant about it in Manhattan Valley. I find that it is an important part of the residential character of that neighborhood, and that eliminating that it gives me a lot more pause than it ordinarily would. That said, I still can't bring myself to vote against the project because of that, because the affordable housing and the senior supportive housing is necessary in the community. And I'm just simply highlighting the fact that this is not a cost-free transaction, that both of those things are social goods in the situation in which they're found, and that I would like our resolution to note that dichotomy, and that, at least for my vote, it is a close call, even though it is, at the end of the day, I'm going to sleep well voting the way that I expect to vote, depending on what the resolutions are that are brought before us. I would like our resolution to call the school. The folks in answers to questions tonight gave a very good record and a very good telling of outreach to the school so far. My strong preference would be that there be some kind of document that lays out expectations, whether that document be our resolution or some other document of the creation of those who will be involved. I think having a CAB or a construction advisory board of some kind is an appropriate way to monitor that, but I would like there to be something that they would refer back to as to expectations when somebody wants to put a jackhammer in the bedrock and there's a test the next day.
Would you mind just drafting a paragraph for inclusion in the ultimate resolution along those lines?
I kind of already did, but yeah, I'll be glad to. You were kind enough to circulate something today, and I have some thoughts on that. So I'm glad to do more than that. And then the last thing is that I would like us to call on the developer to forswear weekend after-hours variances. I think they're granted by the Department of Buildings based on a series of clicks with a mouse, and that they are then renewed as a matter of course. There are times I've heard from other districts where they're renewed without the developer even asking for them. And while the EIS lays out what the criteria are, I am, after butting heads with the Department of Buildings on this for years, and with the good help of then Councilmember, now Borough President Gail Brewer, and Councilmember Dan Garodnick, who have taken great action on this, we're still at the same place where it is a default position. So I would have us protect our residents by calling for them not to use them, or not to use them unless there are certain categories having to do with you don't want to leave a gaping hole where children can fall in it. And then there are default categories where it's for the administrative convenience of the developer. And with all possible respect for Wishfish, as opposed to Excel, I still think that we should limit the availability of AHVs to those where it's absolutely necessary for public safety.
You are drafted to draft that as well.
Very good. And I am going to, and then my final comment is about the upzoning less than 10 years after a downzoning. Again, I don't take that lightly. And I think that we, in our resolution, need to do as good a job as we possibly can. And the draft that was circulated for original thought is helpful in that regard. I think we need to make the case that this is sui generis, that there are wonderfully good reasons why this community was downzoned 10 years ago, and that this should not be the beginning of a redevelopment plan or protocol for the neighborhood. And so again, it's a little bit of a close call, but I believe that depending on how the resolutions are formulated, I believe that I support the affordable housing part of that. And thank you for the time.
Okay, I want to repeat what Mark said. Well, I would like Wishfish to make every effort possible to assist current stakeholders that have parking spaces that will be lost, to assist them in finding other parking spaces in the area that so that they are not on their own to find these parking spaces with funds, both for the phase 1 and phase 2 of the project.
I'm going to second a lot of what Mark said earlier. I sat through the hearing, the first hearing on this, and I heard a lot of heartfelt testimony from all sides. I'm sorry that it pitted housing against parking. Both things are absolutely necessary. Many years ago, we sat in this room where over 300 people who at that time were told their garages were going to close came here and testified. Many were low and moderate income people who just could not use transit to get to their jobs, which were either in New Jersey or on Long Island or in Westchester or whatever. I don't think we should look askance at people that need this resource. All of them are West Siders, all of them are our neighbors. I wish we could have accommodated more of those parkers in the final product, and I wish Wishfish could still, as Jerry said, assist them in finding alternate means for, when their parking spaces are going to be lost. But at the end, this is a quality organization that delivers a quality product, and that would not stop me from voting for this.
This is one of the hardest cases we've had since I've been on the board, and I was on the board during the stewardship of Peter Stuyvesant. I come down, as Mark does, on the side of affordable housing because it is probably the most crucial need that anyone ever will have or has had. However, with respect to parking, I want to raise for consideration the possibility of dropping the eastern site from the project. It would reduce the affordable housing by 80 units, but would retain probably a little over 100 parking spaces. And so I want to throw that out, if anyone cares to discuss it. And other than that, I think everyone is, I agree with everything everyone has said.
So I'm in the middle, physically in the table here and also with this project. I agree with many of the comments of my colleagues, but I've also been sitting here trying to tabulate over what I reckon to be 250 letters from various people. And they're split about 2/3, 1/3 regarding the need for affordable housing, but also to respect the quality of the environment that the neighbors up there, the current residents, have expected that would be maintained. So I usually vote always for affordable housing because I think that's the appropriate way to go. But I see here that the Duke Ellington Boulevard Neighborhood Association, that I remember so well, commented about the problems with the Jewish Home Life Care, literally 2 blocks away, that was very troublesome. And I think we made the right decision, but then we lost it again because that project moved further south. So we didn't really win. It was just substituted. So I think my question about this, not that I want to send the design team back to the drawing board, but I do see some things here that have changed since the spring, and I would add to the list of concerns that my colleagues have as follows. If you are going to break the zoning and increase it, I think that there is every reason to expect that you should be able to incorporate more parking in the project. I don't know what this will do to the streetscape. I understand the school's needs and everything, but this is a long-term project, and you're trying to put a gallon into a pint pot. And there are a lot of people that, in reading some of these stories, I have to believe them, there should be some accommodation to mediate, as my colleague Peter said, to provide for more parking in the neighborhood. I don't think we're ready for electric cars, and not everyone, certainly on this block, is going to be capable of a city bike. So that might be great for the transient workers who would attend to the people that will live here. But for the most part, this population going there won't be using the bicycle, nor will the school children. So I think there has to be a reconsideration. The other big issue for me is the appearance of this project. When we saw it, it was a much gentler, calmer project, and this seems to be more hard-edged, and I'm only assuming this is a cost factor from HPD and your negotiations on the cost of the project, probably because of the remediation of the gasoline and oils that may be underneath the 3 garages, in that the scheme now harkens to what our community board has been trying to fight, which is large storefront glass windows. We're now getting a proposal that has big dog pictures on them, substituting for pillboxes that my colleagues used to complain about. And I'm worried that on a side street, Manhattan Valley is a very unique and quirky neighborhood that has a lot of mixed types of architecture in it. And I think the uniformity of glass running the full length of the project, I would ask you to restudy that. This should have spaces you originally showed, and Bill, I know you from full confession here from the past, your original scheme showed recesses and seating. You're on the sunny side of the street. You're not on the south side, you're on the north. So that this project could really be a benchmark for directing how multi-use projects should happen. And I'm just not seeing the same level of detail and environmental pizzazz, frankly, that you had. Because I think that would go a long way to making this street desirable, so when you're collecting your child from school, you can sit across and meet with neighbors, etc. So I think those areas, I could cope with the zoning upgrade if it frankly provided more. This is a case where if you're going to break the rule, let's break it for the right reasons so that more people benefit. don't do it a little bit, but make it really an important and significant project so that the whole of Manhattan Valley wins out. This stack of papers here, and I'll share them around, you can read through them, disturbs me. I can't right now say how I'm going to vote, but if you could add those to your shopping list, I'd be a lot happier.
Yeah, before we go further, the issue has been raised that the plan has changed from its original incarnation. Has it, and in what sense has it changed, and what was the rationale for the change?
I'll just say, in terms of
the design and specifically the ground floor and how it meets the sidewalks, as we went through getting ready to certify the ULURP, we got a lot of comments from city planning. And so a lot of the changes along the street facade at the ground level were in response to comments from city planning.
Can you be a little more?
Specifically, the treatment of, and I think maybe what part of what you're referring to, Paige, is the treatment at the eastern end of the building. There is a lot of glazing there. We're studying what the glass should be, how the mullion pattern should be, to give it an appropriate scale. But a lot of that was driven by comments we got from, as Paul just said, from the Department of City Planning, who emphasized the idea of transparency and visibility.
Well, my concern here is that you've made it hard on yourself by having the bi-level. I appreciate your explanation. I'm very grateful that you went through those plans because it showed the split level nature and trying to get light. That's a plus. But you've made it very hard on yourself because now, in order to open up the light below, you've extended it now 20 feet. So we have a very high curtain wall. And with all due respect to city planning, they're not perfect. They don't live here, and I sometimes wonder if they've actually visited the neighborhood. Because in this particular case, you can have surprises. You can create window box windows and recesses and views into spaces. I'm not sure that people sitting inside who are troubled and receiving counseling or having dinner need to be gawked at. There's intimate spaces, and there's public dining spaces, and there are community rooms. And I think something has been lost since the last time. I personally preferred your previous design.
And I'll just say that we haven't finalized the design of ground floor. We're happy to take it into account.
Yeah, we're going to take that into account. Peter?
I agree with a lot of my. I agree with a lot of my committee members, but I also think you have an excellent architect here. I know the architect quite well, and I know this is very early in the design process. But knowing the architect, I would hope that you consider some of the things that our committee is interested in, particularly the effort to bring some parking into it, because you have a very good opportunity with a sloping street. It might make it a lot easier to develop parking in the rear in such a way that it's not costly. Number one, you have several garages that go down into the rock to begin with, so I don't believe that excavating is going to be as big a cost issue as it might be on other sites. I also think the isolated site to the east, as was mentioned earlier, is an opportunity for a freestanding garage. It would produce less residential units. But I think the challenge here is to find a point where both residential and parking are accommodated in some reasonable way, considering that there are hundreds of cars that are going to be eliminated. And I think with not a single parking space on site now,
that's a rather severe direction to go. So I think it needs some more consideration, and I think you can get there. I think you'll have a good start, but more has to happen.
Totally agree on it's great to visit the redesign of the front. But as for zoning and units, I think we're in the midst of a homelessness crisis and a general housing crisis. And I would hate to be someone who stands in the way of fitting in these additional 80 or 100 units that we're talking about removing. Land is so rare in New York, and now we have the chance to use this city-owned land to create housing for seniors and those who are disabled and homeless, and I think we really need to maximize this opportunity.
My main concern was with the zoning, because as chair of the board, we spent 2 years, a lot of people here and people here were involved deeply in trying to keep the contextual zoning of our neighborhoods, but we also thought of maintaining the diversity of our neighborhood. And so to make a change is very difficult, but the question is, what are we making the change for? One of the changes is to maintain the economic diversity in the community and provide for the people who are here. And that's overriding in my mind and my heart. The fact that the full effect of the zoning change will not be realized, and with the land disposition agreement will be at 5.3 FAR and not extended, is a very good thing. Because even though with R8A you can build much higher, there's no desire to. This is only the essential to get the number of units we want to get. The other piece is that the aesthetics are important. They're important to people in the neighborhood and they should be looked at. But aesthetics are preferential. They are subjective. And to the extent that they're not functional, I understand. My preference and your preference may be different. So let's look at this in terms of the functional effect on the streetscape and on the people who are going to be using the facility.
Hi, I want to support what Paige is saying. As I look at this project, it does not look like a community project. It looks like a commercial area. It doesn't look warm and welcoming. There are tree pits, but there are no flower bed pits along the building side, so it's just a stark front. Well, it looks like a lot of green in the picture when you walk along the street. They're really, particularly in the winter, there's not going to be much softness to it. Very harsh outline. It does not, aesthetics sounds like a soft and fuzzy and unmeasurable thing, but community interaction, social interaction is pretty well studied area. And the concept of creating areas that are pockets and ins and outs creates interest on the street, encourages people literally to stop and talk to each other. Even if there are no benches, which there should be benches. I didn't get a chance to ask, are pets going to be allowed in the building? Just, anyone know? Pets?
30% of the meeting.
I'm all about the humanizing of a very tough city. There's a lot of cement, a lot of glass, a lot of brick in the city. Plants, pets, areas to take your pets, very important.
When we read the newspaper every day, we're horrified because we see that there are approximately 60,000 people a day who are living in shelters. The gentrifiers are here in our neighborhood, in Manhattan Valley, between 100th Street and above. They've already bought buildings. They're already planning on harassing the low income and the moderate income tenants out and turning them into high-rise market rate buildings.
So more homelessness is on the way. We're very lucky that we have this site. We've got to get the entire site, the western side and the eastern side, built totally for housing as soon as possible. My heart goes out to the people with the parking spaces. There are garages above 100th Street. You will not have to pay more than you've been paying. St. John the Divine has a big to it. You may not be aware of some of these parking garages. We cannot wait 5 years for the eastern site to be developed. You'll have a different mayor in 2023, and you don't know what that mayor's commitments are and concerns are. It's amazing. I've been in the city for many, many years. This is the first mayor who has been totally committed to affordable housing. Don't miss this opportunity.
So a few thoughts. One is I have a general rule not to weigh in on aesthetics, but I do kind of like the way it looks. Take that for what it is. Second, I've heard a number of valid concerns, and number one, I think to the extent we can get promises in writing, that's an important thing. I like the idea of benches if there's room. I don't know if there is. Ultimately, I think what Mark said echoed what a lot of us, and especially what I'm thinking. There are trade-offs here. It's a close call in many ways, but you can't have a car in the neighborhood if you don't have a house. And for these people, if we're giving up space for people in favor of cars, then it means that someone's not able to live in the neighborhood or even to have a home in exchange for someone else being able to keep a car in the neighborhood. And I understand it's a trade-off, but people are desperate for homes, especially in our neighborhood, which has gotten so unaffordable. And I think it's just really important that we take care of our neighbors and make our neighborhood more affordable, have more spaces. And I would hate to, even if we got rid of a few of the units to make room for cars, it means whatever trade-off we're making, we're giving up space for people in exchange for cars. And it's just a trade-off I don't think we should be making. So for that reason, I support you.
I agree. New York City needs affordable housing more than it needs private car storage. We're talking as if people lose their parking, they're going to have no place to go. That's not the case. What we're really talking about is parking that, at least according to the Nelson Nygaard study, is 30% below the current. That benefit, I'd probably be pretty upset too. But there are, but it's proven that the market for parking is flexible and elastic, and can meet demand. Witness the fact that there's 5% availability in current parking garages for monthly parkers. There is no 5% vacancy rate for affordable housing. There is a 10-year rate for affordable housing. And to the question of whether they've already made a great concession by agreeing to wait 5 years on the eastern development. If we make another concession and say, okay, we're going to make that permanent, would anybody on those committees be willing to have each one of the other one seniors take advantage of their housing and tell them to their face, you're getting a home for the first time, or you're getting an apartment where you don't have to walk up 5 floors even though you're disabled, and when you're 70s, you're 80s. No, that's not as important as somebody has 100 people having a place to park their cars. Why not all other places to park cars? That's the bottom line.
It's a tough call. I've been living in affordable housing for quite some time. I also once had a car and used it to drive to my job that was 42 miles away. I feel for the people who are losing their parking, but I agree with what a lot of people said that affordable housing is incredibly important and there's not enough of it. I think the delay in phase 2 is very troubling to me. I think Audrey raised some very good points about that. I would like to cede some of my time what Mark Diller already said, because it was said so eloquently. But I'm back there with Andrew Albert about how wrenching it is, about the battle between the affordable parking and affordable living. I wish there were a way to accommodate more of this. I'm troubled that we're able to make room for the ambulances. Louisa, to your point, it seems like there are many ambulances to go around, and there's lots of medical care. I also think that having an ambulance there when you need one is very, very important. I don't know if there's some way to do that off site and maybe make some more affordable housing. Paige, I love your concern about if we change this, what will happen, what's the precedent. And I would like to see the resolution very strongly worded to say, these are the things that we think we have heard you say. I'm delighted at the thought that the agreement could say, we will not have any variances on the weekends unless it's for a really critical safety issue. Because I think that's dreadful for the tenants. And I'm very concerned about the impact on the school kids. Really concerned about that. So one final concern, very serious concerns about the environmental impact of what's in the ground and what will happen when it's excavated. I'm delighted to hear that the remediation plan is probably very good. One final thought, I'm impressed with what Ms. Fish, hard enough as it is to say, has accomplished, and I think they seem like a really good actor with a great track record, and I do not have any expectation they're going to screw up now. So I think it's in good hands, but I'd like to see phase 2 done in a way that ensures that it will be with Fish doing phase 2 as well as phase 1.
Thank you, everybody. Jerry has a comment.
Just a comment of the possibility of doing a phase 2 for parking. I'm against that. I think we should maximize the affordable housing. I think that I believe there is plenty, or I should say, enough parking availability in the neighborhood that can be used for existing parking spaces. But I do feel strongly that we should have to manage the process of passing those parking spaces.
What I'm going to try to do is summarize some of the comments that have been made that if the vote is to approve this project, I don't think these are controversial, but let me go through them. Number one, that our vote, if it's in favor, would be subject to a disposition agreement being signed for development rights, that it would contain the longest possible disposition agreement limiting the use to affordable housing and affordable housing for seniors, and that phase 2 would happen. That there would be a commitment from the city to do phase 2 when the time came. In addition, I think the resolution should include a provision that urges the developer and city planning and HPD to revisit the treatment of the ground floor frontage. The Page's comment about glass is based on bitter experience. Having a glass front of a medical clinic, I don't know how many of you looked up and down Columbus Avenue, but it's not something that people on the outside are particularly interested in seeing, and it's certainly not something that people in a waiting room are particularly interested in having people see. There's a comment about coordinating development of building with the school, that will be in the resolution as well. The resolution will mention after-hours variances and urge that they be limited to true emergencies. The resolution would say in strong terms that this is a sui generis project and that it is not to be used as a precedent for anything. The resolution would ask that Bush Fish or the city assist in Parker's relocating I think those are the comments that I heard, and that I think would be included if we approve this project. Any other comments, any dissent from us?
I think it was the second bullet point you made about phase two. I would just add something about expediting it as much as possible. There's a great.
Well, we're gonna have a separate vote on that issue. Some board members have asked that phase two be expedited, and some have said that it should be
Can you
eliminated.
explain how we will be voting on this?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. What I think we ought to do as a preliminary matter, because it'll, is to see whether there's a majority position either to expedite phase two, that is, eliminate the 5-year delay, or conversely to eliminate phase two.
My question that goes with that question is whether phase two and phase one could be done at the same time and eliminate the, if you're talking about the school, for example, you'll have 6 years of construction, whether there's a gap in between or not. That's essentially 2 full generations of middle school students because it's a 3-year school. If one question is whether one should follow immediately on the other. The other question is whether they can overlap, and I don't know if that's possible given finances and availability of construction resources and so forth. My vote might, actually I don't vote, oh, sorry. I don't vote with you because I'm not one of the committees. Never mind.
All right, so let me just, let me go through what it is that we're going to be voting. Reach some consensus on phase two. No. And as usual, we're going to have a committee, 4 committees voting as a group, and then we're going to have committee non-members, or some people call them non-committee members. The first thing that we're going to have to vote on is to approve the remapping of the affected area from RA8, RAP. I'm sorry, RAB to RA8, excuse me. Then we're going to have to vote on approving the designation of the area as an urban development action area. We're also going to have to vote on amendment to Appendix F to the zoning resolution to designate this area as a mandatory affordable housing area. Many of you will remember that Community Board 7, when mandatory housing came into effect, Community Board 7, probably the only board in the city, asked that areas in Community Board 7 be designated mandatory affordable housing areas, and so this is the first one.
I got it, no worries. I got it.
Mandatory and inclusionary, I'm sorry. And then finally, we have to vote on the disposition of the site to Wishish. Before we do any of that, I just want to make sure, I want to see if there's support for expediting the eastern section, or conversely, B, eliminating the eastern section. It's not an either or. You can be for the resolution, for the application as it's drafted with the 5-year delay. So, all right, first, let me just see committee members for expediting the construction of the eastern section.
Did you say expedite?
Expedite. In other words, without the 5-year delay. Right. Committee members?
Okay. 14, 15, 16. Which committee? 17. Thank you. I got 17. What you got? 18? 18 sounds good to me.
Opposed? All right. That moves.
Eligible to vote.
No,
eligible.
Oh, yeah,
Not eligible.
abstaining,
Not-
abstain
No,
one,
no, they're not abstaining, they're not eligible to vote.
Not eligible. to
you're not eligible?
No, I'm not eligible.
He's not eligible.
And you're not
and-
eligible.
So I have 18 to 2 to 0 to 2, is that
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, that moots the issue of eliminating these concessions. So now, non-committee board members.
Expedite.
4, 1, 2,
3.
3.
And I heard Paul. Are you, so I've got 3 yes. Expediting?
Opposed? Non-committee members? 1, 2. Abstaining? Because?
Not eligible.
The non-committee vote is 3 to 1.
I got 2, 3 to 2 to 0 0.
3 to 2. Okay. Okay, now, all right, so we're going to add a resolution that requests that a 5-year delay be eliminated. We're now going to vote on the 3 actual items that we're required to vote on. Number 1, the proposed rezoning and remapping from RAP to RAA.
Richard, I was just wondering if those all goes to bundle. It's not, it's fine.
Does anybody object to bundle?
No, because they're all very similar. They're all.
We have an objection. They are similar, but,
We are asked by city planning, we've had this problem before, it's very clear that we're in the
it'll
affirmative.
take 2 seconds.
Okay.
All right. So, everybody clear on this one? RAP, RAA,
With all of the revisions that you.
with all of the caveats that I listed earlier. All those in favor?
Members of the committee. I got 18.
Opposed?
Wait, I'm sorry. Hands up again,
Raise
please.
your hands again.
There we go. 1.
Are these just committee or not committee?
This is committee.
19. Are you voting?
I'm not one of
You're not,
the
so it's 19.
All right, opposed? 0. Abstained? 0. Ineligible? 2, 3. Okay. Non-committee board members. In favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1. Abstained? None. Ineligible? None.
That resolution carries 19-0.
The designation as a proposed, as a urban development action area. All those in favor? Committee members only.
I have 19.
Okay.
19.
Against? 0. Abstained? 0. Ineligible?
Say 3.
3. Non-committee members. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5.
5. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Opposed? You're opposed also?
I said opposed.
Oh, all right. Sorry. 4-1. Abstaining? Ineligible? 0. Next. Approve the application to amend Appendix F of the zoning resolution to include property being disposed of as a mandatory inclusionary housing area. Favor? 1.
I don't know. You got 19? 19 it is.
All right, 19 and a half. All those opposed? Committee members. Abstaining, committee members? And 3 ineligible? Okay. Board members. Non-committee board members. 1, 2, 3. Good. 4.
4?
Yep.
Okay.
Opposed? 1. Abstained? Ineligible? 0. All right.
You got disposition.
The final vote is to approve the disposition of the site to Wishley. All those in favor? I can credit to you,
You're spoiling the surprise.
Spoiler alert.
Opposed? 0. Abstained? 0. Same 3 ineligible? Yes. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1. Abstained? Ineligible? Okay. Now, here's what's hopefully going to happen. In the next, we meet on December 5th as a board to review these resolutions. This, what we've done tonight is a recommendation of committees. And the full board, there are 19 members who voted in favor tonight. The full board comprises 50 people. Wait,
46.
46 people. Between now and then, with enough time to comment, I'll try to circulate a resolution that incorporates the comments that were made tonight and reflects the vote that was had tonight. And any member of the committees who wants to suggest editing, amendment, or disagreement can do it. Do this all by email. Any questions? Okay.
I want to thank everybody for coming. Please look around your seats. If there's water bottles or garbage, there's garbage cans over there. If you could clean up the room. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, board members, for all of your hard work.